can't see me, you Stevie. Wondering how I reach more evolutions than Eevee and make it look easy.
What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's your boy Ernie, the Blerd without fear. Welcome back to the channel. Also, if you're new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Tap the notification bell too. That way you don't miss any videos. And also, if you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit that like button because it really helps the channel out. That said, we're going to be talking about Mystique #1, written and drawn by Declan Shalvey, with colors by Matt Hollingsworth and letters by Clayton Cowles. This one, it took me a while to get to. There was actually a little bit of joking on the Blerd Cave this past Saturday, which, by the way, if you have never caught the Blerd Cave, it's a live stream that I do on the channel every Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. It came up as kind of a joke. So I think someone asked if I had read Mystique, and I said I hadn't read it yet, and I said I've been too busy. And some people kind of jokingly took it as though I wasn't interested in the book, but no, I was interested. Just there's always so much stuff going on, and some of you may have noticed I've been doing a lot more stuff than what you might be used to. I'm trying out some new things. We're doing some new stuff. Got some irons in the fire. But point of the matter is that, yeah, it wasn't so much that it was not a priority. It took me a while to get here. And I read the book over the weekend. And yeah, I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. I mean, it wasn't a surprise that I would enjoy it because I'm a huge fan of Declan's work. Some of you actually probably seen that I've talked to Declan a couple of times on the channel. I've talked to both himself and his artist, Drew Moss, over on Thundercats. For Dynamite, I've also talked to him about his recent Terminator series that just started, also over at Dynamite. So if you haven't checked those out, I'll leave some links down below. You can go and pick those up if you're interested. Now, that said, him being on Mystique, I was really excited because Declan, my introduction to him as a creative in the comic spectrum is as an artist. That was, I believe it was his Moon Knight that he had done, I believe, with either Jeff Lemire or Warren Ellis. I'm blanking on which one that is at the time, but it was kind of in and around that time frame where I think it was a transitional period between Warren Ellis and Jeff Lemire. But point of the matter is, I like his work. I loved his art. He's a great, and not to mention he's a funny guy. He's a really funny guy. But he started transitioning over to writing over the last few years, and of course he's writing Thundercats, which is fantastic. So I just was kind of the assumption that, yeah, Mystique is in good hands, and so far I feel like I'm justified. This book is great. It's a good throwback to what I feel is the kind of spy era of Mystique. Some of you may remember the Brian K. Vaughan series from the early aughts. That was one of my favorite books of that time because it was just so different. It wasn't anything I actually expected Mystique to be doing. I mean, which is kind of weird to say because she's a shapeshifter. She can turn into whoever she wants. She's always operated as a spy on some level, even going back to some of her earliest moments in Marvel Comics, going against the X-Men, Ms. Marvel, and so on and so forth. So yeah, it makes sense that after the Krakoan era, everything has kind of fallen apart, and now the proverbial shit is about to hit the fan. And I say that because now that Mystique is on her spy game, we also know that, are you really a spy in the Marvel Comics universe if you're not going up against Nick Fury? Whether it's senior or junior, doesn't really matter. That is what's happening here. And that was the thing I wondered about, like, what was the pushing point for Mystique to be on Nick Fury Jr.'s radar? Like, what's going on here? Well, to get this all set up for you, what you kind of need to know going into this is that S.H.I.E.L.D. is not the S.H.I.E.L.D. that you're probably familiar with, especially if you're someone who either A, has not been reading any of the greater Marvel stuff lately, like you haven't kept up with the stuff like Secret Empire, you haven't really been keeping up with some of the Avengers stuff that came up after Secret Empire, or B, you are an MCU fan who does not normally read the comics, which, by the way, just want to say this real quick, nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being a filthy casual. Trust me, there are tons of things that I really enjoy that I'm a filthy casual when it comes down to it. Things like Doctor Who. I'm not a super fan of Doctor Who. I just don't mind when Doctor Who is on in my presence. So yeah, but what I'm trying to say here is that yes, there's a lot that's happened. Since Secret Empire, S.H.I.E.L.D. has been decommissioned. As a matter of fact, in the Marvel Comics post Secret Empire, S.H.I.E.L.D. had not only been disbanded, but a lot of the artifacts and weapons and gear and tech and things of that nature that S.H.I.E.L.D. used to keep quartered away, all of that stuff started finding its way out into the wider world. It's kind of part of the reason why during the Christopher Canwell run of Iron Man, where he was going out of his way, Tony Stark was going out of his way to try to lock down a lot of the weapons of mass destruction that exist in the Marvel Comics universe. It's also why at a point during the Krakoan era, the auction house was selling off all these random items, and they had a S.H.I.E.L.D. stockpile that they were stealing from and taking these items and weapons, decommissioned Sentinels and Nimrod units and, MODOK's chair and Doc Ock's tentacles and all this other stuff, all these crazy random items. They were taking all these things and selling them off to the highest bidder. And eventually at one point, we did see during the Krakoan era that Captain America was working alongside Nick Fury in an effort to get all this stuff wrapped up and hidden away. And we also learned during the Ryan North written Fantastic Four series at a certain point that Maria Hill and Nick Fury were bringing S.H.I.E.L.D. back after about roughly several years of S.H.I.E.L.D. not being a thing. Now, the S.H.I.E.L.D. was going to be something different. It wasn't going to be the S.H.I.E.L.D. as we had always known them. They were going to be a much more low-key outfit. For those not in the know, S.H.I.E.L.D. under normal circumstances typically stands for Strategic Homeland Intervention, Enforcement, and Logistics Division. This version of S.H.I.E.L.D., this new version of S.H.I.E.L.D., was going to mean something different. It was going to mean Superhuman Intelligence Extra Legal Division. This is not a helicarriers in the air all over the place type of deal. This is an operation that is not as well funded, not all encompassing, not superseding the normal government procedures of the Marvel Comics universe. No, this is an organization not unlike the CIA or the FBI, but just dealing with superhuman related things. And what ends up happening here is that we learn is that Maria Hill is at the head of this organization, but at the same time, she is not, once again, the Nick Fury of the situation. This is not her job. She is a paper and pencil pusher at best, and really, Nick Fury is no better, except for the fact that he's working behind a desk no differently than Maria Hill is, but with way less responsibility, though right now his whole deal is overseeing the placement of mutants and their whereabouts, keeping tabs on them after the fall of Krakoa. And since Mystique is out here on her spy game, this is what technically leads Mystique into the crosshairs of Nick Fury, and also the nudging of his own father, Nick Fury Sr. That's right, vanilla Nick Fury, original recipe Nick Fury shows up in this. Though with everything that is happening right now, part of me wonders, because once again, we have to remember this is a Mystique book, and we know the Mystique can be a little bit of everybody. She can literally be whoever she wants to be. And we see throughout this book, there's a lot of, baits and switches. There's moments where they try and make you think, oh, is she this person over here? Is she this person over there? Is she doing this? Is she doing that? There's a lot of misdirection going on here. So the fact that Nick Fury Sr. is involved in this makes me wonder if, because they really don't wheel Nick Fury Sr. out very often anymore. It's typically Nick Fury Jr. who we've seen running around for the last decade or more. Nick Fury Sr. also got rode off into the sunset in a one-shot. So I don't know. I feel like this is probably not Nick Fury Sr. I wonder if this is not, somebody else or something else messing with Nick Fury Jr. Maybe another shapeshifter, but honestly, all roads I wonder could point to Mystique on some level or another, because yeah, she's just that mercurial. The place where my little theory about this being, Mystique that's actually speaking with Nick Fury Jr., where all that kind of falls apart. Not to say that Nick Fury Sr. is not about business. I mean, yeah, if anyone would know the most and have the most intel on Mystique, it would be a guy like him. But I feel like no one knows more about Mystique than Mystique. Anything that would be true or factual, it would probably come from her. And she's playing some kind of a game here. And I'll be honest with you, I don't really know what it is that she's trying to do. She's just kind of doing stuff. We see at various points where, you know, she's tricking people into signing over, you know, millions of dollars to herself from people who are normally funding money to anti-mutant hate groups. And we also see at a later point that she's messing around with Maverick, a character who, yeah, for the most part was kind of around during the Krakoan era, but didn't really want to be a part of the Krakoan era. We see a lot of that. We see her constantly jumping back and forth between all of these different characters from across the Marvel Comics universe. But the thing that I'm going to go and say right now that is I'm going to poke some holes in my own theory, you know, as far as the, you know, this whole, you know, launching point is the fact that there's some things that happen in this comic that would, I would say, honestly, kind of degrade my opinion about whether or not that is Mystique that Nick Fury Jr. is talking to, not his father, Nick Fury Sr. That is largely just based on the fact that, you know, where all this escalates to. Basically, what's happening here is that while Nick Fury is trying to go after Mystique, he ultimately winds up, I think, making the hugest mistake you could potentially make in regards to gaining the ire of Mystique. And that is that he assassinates the one person in the world that Mystique cares about. Her wife, Destiny. Now, the whole death of Destiny in this comic is a mistake. It's not something that Nick Fury actually was trying to do. The thing is that when Nick Fury is getting a little too close to Mystique, or at least as far as Mystique is concerned, he's getting a little too close. We see at a point that she's watching over him as he returns to his apartment. And when he tries to enter, the apartment blows up right in front of him. But because Nick Fury is always prepared, he has on special protective armor and his, you know, typical tactical gear that he often wears when he's out in the field. He has all that stuff on underneath his normal business suit. So when all of this happens, you know, he survives the attack, and we know that Mystique is watching over him because we can literally see her staring at him. But this is what ultimately leads to him tracking down a safe house that Mystique and Destiny often use. The problem is that Mystique is not there. Destiny is. And Destiny, as we all know, has been the longtime love interest of Mystique. They used to run terrorist ops back in the day together and were even a part of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants together at a point. They've also more recently become married. I mean, to be fair, they've kind of always been married, but because of the Comics Code Authority and things of that nature, they were not allowed to actively refer to each other as being each other's wives. They were always referring to each other as partner. Back in the day, that was like a little code word that, I mean, not even just in comics, it was actually kind of a code word that people in the LGBTQIA plus community, even back then, would use to refer to their significant other without drawing too much attention in the case that they might be talking to someone who is homophobic. If you know, you know. That's kind of one of those things. But that was the way they got around that back in the 80s was, yeah, oh, my partner Destiny, my partner Mystique. That was how they got around that. And then more in recent years, because the Comics Code Authority does not exist anymore, they are actually able to depict an LGBTQIA plus couple in a comic without having to tap dance around it. And as we know, after the Krakoan era, they technically, it was a wedding special. They didn't really get married in my eyes so much as they just renewed their vows. I think they've always been married, and the idea of them, I think now, because technically it's a more open thing that can be done more, that's why that wedding special existed. It was a fun issue, but to me, in my eyes, I feel like they have always been married, and I think that it was just more of a, hey, we're just making it more official than what it was. All that's to say that killing Destiny is the absolute dumbest thing you can do when it comes to getting Mystique's attention, because now you have her undivided attention. You don't, especially with everything going on right now, you know, Resurrection no longer being on the table. And I'll go and say, I don't think Destiny, I don't know, I really hope Destiny isn't just dead, period. You know, I'm pretty sure there's going to be some, you know, shenanigans, you know, because comic books shenanigans, you know, going on. But yeah, the point here is that, yeah, you now have Mystique's full undivided attention. And regardless of the fact that Nick Fury wasn't the one who pulled the trigger, one of his subordinates pulled the trigger, it was also one of those deals too where Nick didn't want this person to shoot. They just assumed that it was Mystique and shot her. So I don't know. There's, like I said, this is gonna be one of those stories where, being a spy thriller type of book, you're not really going, at least I feel, you're not really gonna know what Mystique's motives are until she wants you to know what those motives are. And I don't think you're gonna fully understand what Nick Fury wants in all of this, until he's ready for you to know. I mean, what we do know is that he thinks Mystique is dangerous, which is not an unfair statement to make. She is, I would dare say, one of the, not to say she's like the most ultimate all-powerful mutant, but she is one of the deadliest out there. She can literally be anywhere and you not know. She could literally be standing right next to you right now. Hell, I could be Mystique right now talking to you, telling you about the story about Mystique and you not know, unless I wanted you to know. I mean, yeah, we're just gonna go with that. But anyway, yeah, I like what this is doing. I like what this is setting up, and I like that I have no clue what is happening. I love stuff like this because, it's always more fun to me when you can't tell what is going to happen next. And I love what Declan is doing. He's doing a fantastic job. I want to see more of this. I think, I've been wrong with a few of these because it's just the Marvel model. A lot of the books that have been coming out lately have been 5-issue miniseries. A lot of these new From the Ashes books, not all of them are 5-issue minis. I mean, yeah, duh, we know that the X-Men books aren't, like the core X-Men titles aren't, but like some of the other ones, like your X-Forces, your Storms, your Phoenixes, a lot of those actually have been revealed to be ongoings, not just 5-issue minis. So I think this one is actually a 5-issue mini. I don't think this was going to go more than 5 issues. I think it's going to be kind of in the same category as Sentinels, but whatever it is we get, whether it continues on or not, I think honestly, if it's popular enough, if people bite onto it enough, I'm pretty sure Marvel will bring Declan back for more. That's kind of just how comics work. If a book sells well, it's going to get picked up for more. That's what happened with Poison Ivy just a couple of years ago with G. Willow Wilson over at DC. The book was not supposed to go, I think, more than maybe 10 or 12 issues. And it sold so well that I think now they're on issue 30-something now, or just got around to issue 30-something. So yeah, that's just the nature of comics. So I'm here for it. I don't know. We'll see what happens, but I'll be keeping my eye on this one. I mean, obviously, duh, it's an X-Men related book. But yeah, this is definitely one I'll be looking forward to.